So first of all, I'm going to start with a blank a Jupyter notebook, and this is where I'm going to go straight into Python. And apologies if it's going to be heavy, the transition, but this is where I'm going to show what we can do, really. So the first thing that we're going to do is let's talk a bit about APIs. So let's understand APIs. So whenever you see an application, in this case, I have my application or application Alana, where we have the different price scenarios. And actually, let me make a small amendment here. Just a second. Okay. So whenever you see this application, you can see that yeah, I have a possibility to have a look at the different scenarios. If I open a scenario, for instance, I can have a look at my price deck and scroll over the different prices over time. And I think we can also have a look at the price. We can have a look at some information about the prices, oil and gas prices, and so on. Now, what we want is to bring this information from this web platform that could be on your premises or it could be on the cloud. So traditionally, most of these platforms will offer a possibility to extract information, and usually that is an API. So for instance, if I want to extract economics, those APIs will offer a port where we can see and extract information from the API. So in this case, we see the different prices that we were showing before. Now with a way in which we can understand how to communicate with that backend. And if I see, for instance, the cases, we can also see how much is the price over time for every one of those cases. So that's fine. You don't want to use this. What you really want to use is connect to those APIs and extract information. And by the way, pretty much all the applications that you see online, they have their own APIs and they provide access to third parties or developers or users to access and accelerate workflows. Now, is this something that you only use with Python? Not really, not really. Once you have an API, you can use any programming language to access the API. So I'm going to show how to access that, the APIs just through Python. And in order to do that, what we use, it's a library called requests. So I have some credentials here, which I'm not going to show. These are my credentials to access the API. So first of all, I'm going to import those credentials. I have a token that usually expires and I have to renew every now and then, which provides some level of security. If I would have direct access to the database, one problem of having direct access to the database, it would be very fast as well. But I can have a look at pretty much everything that is in the database. There are some levels of user permissions that can be established, but through the APIs, everything it's down to a particular user. I have my user, and I can only see the data that I am allowed to see, and I can only run the workflows that I'm allowed to see. So that's more or less how the APIs or the application programming interfaces work. So I'm going to use requests, and I'm going to use the library called pandas to bring everything into a Python world, so I can visualize, I can see it almost in a tabulated way. I can also import the plotting library just to see some of this information in a bit. Okay. So in this case, the API, it's sitting in my machine. Let's think almost like it's almost like on my premises and not in the cloud. But this could be a URL that it's pointing to somewhere in the cloud that it's restricted to your organization. So it's just setting what is a URL, what I'm going to access, and it gives my authorization access to the URL. Now, I'm going to put a helpful function here that I have written already. You don't need to worry too much about it. But if you want to connect to your API, you probably have to write your own function to get information. And this function, what it does is basically get the tables from the database. And that's a function that we're going to use. So I started with a simple example. And the simple example is I want to access the economics app. And as I was showing above, I want to access the economics information in the web server. And I want to extract the object type that I want to extract is price. And there is a scenario that I want to bring on as well. I want to bring the Brent low A price. Okay. So the way it works is I need to provide a couple of routing mechanisms to the table. In this case, let me just show you very quickly. So I'm going to call this get table, and I'm going to provide the route to the API, to the master API, to get the price and to get the prices, to get the OPEX, to get the CAPEX, and to get the production. Okay. So in this case, if I run this, it's running, and if I want to see what it's now in Python, what we have here, it's a prices associated to the scenario Brent low A. And this is brilliant because now I can change the scenario. And if I have 100 scenarios in the database, I can pretty much drag every scenario as I want at any point of time. If I want to bring in a scenario from a year ago and rerun some economics and do some modifications to that scenario, I can bring those scenarios back very quickly. I don't have to go to an Excel that was who knows where it's hidden in which particular folder. So now I have access to my to my prices. And if I show you, for instance, I'll do the same example, just gonna copy and paste very quickly. But now I'm going to access the forecast, and I'm going to access the base scenario. And if I run this, now I get the table brings me the production scenario. Now I have day, oil production on a yearly basis, gas, and so on. So that's great. I can do some stuff with this. First, I can probably do a plot. Let's do a very quick plot on this. I want to sort the values first based on probably the date. And let's do a plot date. Sorry. And now I'm going to plot this in a bar chart, same that I have in the application. I'm going to plot date versus oil production. Great, that's it. So we have the plot, the production plot, and just let me make it a bit bigger. There we have it. So we have a production plot over time for that base case. And if I ever want to bring any other case, let's say I have some case of sensitivity, and in which we have run some lighting hypercube sampling, for instance, I believe that those cases are, let me just double check. It doesn't matter. I can bring, for instance, the base plus workover case. I think that's the name. That's not the name. Place underscore workover. Yep. And there we go. That's a base plus underscore workover. So now I have access to the cost. I have access to the prices, and I have access to the production data that has been stored for economic evaluation there. So I know it's very brief, but it's just to show you how to access the information through the API.